Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is I, the one and only Maxi here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll present to you our next new Let's Play. Well, technically a brand new sort of Let's Play. Well, as far as you guys should already know, that I'm presuming that Daffy Duck has already accomplished his Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 back in 2017 due to the forms of Road to Sonic Mania. However though, 3 years later, that since this was still 2020, aka the worst year I've ever experienced so far for the sake of the whole entire life I just went through, we're gonna be tackling through Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And this is one of those, another emphasis on the forms of the lock-on technology if you manage to able to get yourself Sonic and Knuckles with a actual built-in lock-on cartridge on top of that. And in order to able to play this game is the fact that, well, it's pretty simple. Basically, you just place Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on top of the forms of Sonic and Knuckles cartridge, and that way you can able to play as, well, Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as you can see on screen. However though, I'm not going to be playing this on the original cartridge form because if you couldn't tell already, I'm going to be playing this on the Sega Ages version on the Nintendo Switch. And I was like, yeah, that's the only thing I'm most likely going to be focusing on. So, anyway, so how it works for Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, he plays exactly like how he did in the forms of, you remember the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, where basically Knuckles can able to actually still glide and also climb walls and stuff like that. And also, much like in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Knuckles, obviously he can't able to jump nearly as high as Sonic or Tails. So, definitely a little bit more difficult than the forms of how he does it on Sonic and Tails' playthrough, but it's still nice to able to actually just to let him become playable ever since in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, but except the fact that, well, I don't think Sonic wasn't going to be in this entire Knuckles in Sonic 2 or something like that, which I found was a little bit strange to able to actually noticing this. And speaking of strangeness has been going on, what the heck is up with that particular shield color? Originally back in normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that the actual shield was actually in blue. But in here, it just goes all grey, which I was like, oh, that's a bit weird and interesting at the same time. Even though I haven't exactly first experienced Knuckles in Sonic 2 throughout the majority of my life back in the day, but it wasn't until when, I would say, since the actual Sonic Classic Collection, if I recall correctly. Oh, no way, it was actually the Wii Virtual Console re-release of Sonic and Knuckles, and then that was my first experience I've ever experienced Knuckles in Sonic 2. Despite the fact that this particular game add-on plays exactly the same thing as normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2, except with, you know, you play as Knuckles for the whole way through. There's gonna be some slight differences in between the forms of the normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 compared to the forms of Knuckles in Sonic 2. Well, I brought things out with the original version of Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And that was the fact that, as you can tell, that once again you can still able to actually access those special stages by, you know, collecting 50 rings and then touch the checkpoint, and then that way you would be able to actually go and actually access the special stage. Once again, there are 7 of them in total, which even though it might be self-explanatory for those of you guys might be sort of into this kind of stuff. However, there's a huge differences between the forms of normal Sonic 2 compared to the forms of Knuckles in Sonic 2. Normally, if you manage to either complete the special stage or get kicked out of the special stage if you don't have enough rings with you, normally in normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2, it doesn't matter if it's in Sonic's playthrough or Tails' playthrough, normally your rings counter will be set to 0. However, here's the thing this time around, as you can see, it allows me to able to keep the amount of rings I've got. So, potentially speaking, this is definitely more likely an easier version of the requirement special stages. And also, the amount of rings you're going to be collecting, depending on what special stage you go into, sometimes differs, which even then, we'll point things out whenever we get into, well, the later special stage, as far as you guys can clearly tell from that, for the sake of that particular, you know what I mean. So I digress. And yes, much like new forms of any other Sonic Let's Plays, I will definitely gonna go ahead and try to grab all the Chaos Emeralds on this particular run-through. Although, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that back in new forms of a normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 playthrough, back in 2017, that we almost got ourselves, well, I don't know about you, but even then though, it has been a while since I did manage to play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, because, well, at this point in time, it's the fact that I'm more into, like, playing through Sonic Mania recently, ever since enjoying new forms of, let's just say a couple of years now. Well, at least relatively speaking, I still haven't gone back into Sonic Mania yet, just because I was busy playing something else for the time. So, anyway. So yeah, you can definitely get the idea about the fact that, well, although, unlike the ones and how it does it in the 2013 remastered version of Sonic 2 on the iOS / well, Android phone devices, is that, it's still pretty much exactly the same as normal Sonic 2, like, again, if you manage to get kicked out of the special stage, or even complete the special stage, then, you know, otherwise you will able to actually get your rings counter to 0, so yeah, you probably get the idea of how this is going to turn out to be, so even then though, yeah, I just want to classify that. So, 2 Chaos Emeralds down and only 5 more to go. And thankfully, because of the ability about the fact that I can able to actually keep the insane amount of rings as I could with Knuckles, so but either way though, it's something's worth noting for. So, and plus, making these things is actually, or doing these kinds of stuff is actually a lot faster and quicker compared to the forms of how it does it on normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 sometimes, because the only thing that's incredibly tedious, for me anyway, is that sometimes whenever you happen to actually think to yourself that your rings counter will be reset to 0 and stuff like that, and then if you really want to go for the next special stage or something like that, and basically it's the fact that no matter what though, you have to deal with a lot of exploration if you really want to grab a certain amount of rings, or to be more specifically 50 rings. Luckily it still respawns every time whenever you're able to finish the special stage, or, well, clear the special stage I should say, and then basically you can still able to actually just to grab them, but, you know, trying to able to actually touch the checkpoint, along with not to get hit once, is actually a lot difficult. But thankfully for Knuckles in Sonic 2, it's not much for the actual, it's kind of hard to explain, because I know it has been a couple of days since I actually did manage to play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, even though generally speaking I managed to able to play the Switch version a lot, during on the go and all that stuff though, which has always been a good thing, but either way though, that's all I could honestly try to say, so. And of course, if you couldn't tell, because I'm usually playing this on the Nintendo Switch version, as you can tell, if you manage to play as Sonic in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in Sega Ages version, you'll be able to actually access to the drop dash from Sonic Mania, which also applies to the forms of Sonic 1, by the way. So even then, something's worth noting for that point right there. So yeah, I'm very glad that the Sega Ages Sonic 2 does exist back in the forms of, let's just say the beginning of 2020 or something, or I may be wrong, but then again, there has been a couple of days since I actually did manage to play this game, so. Anyways, 3 Chaos Emeralds down and only 4 more to go, so even then though, yeah, much like the forms of the normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 playthrough, I will definitely go ahead and say this right now, I will be desperately able to get all 7 Chaos Emeralds in one zone only. And that's what it appears to be by the forms of Emerald Hill Zone, so. But again, you still go for the exact same amount of zones as to be expected, and eventually at this point, until specifically on Wednesday, I might also include the actual, you know, the iOS, well, the actual phone exclusive level, which is of course Hidden Palace Zone, which I'll show that off at some point once we finish up with Mystic Cave Zone until specifically on Wednesday, so that you guys can definitely know what's going to be coming up next, so. Because, obviously today's day is, of course, I would say it is the 14th today, in this case, in December. So, we've only got about 11 days left now until, specifically, Christmas time. So, yeah, it should be pretty exciting, and especially noticeable, it does help about the fact that you'll be most likely hyped, able to actually get all sorts of Christmassy items here and there. So, yeah, that should be pretty exciting. So either way though, hopefully we would able to actually just try to make it happen. So anyway. So anyways, let's grab that checkpoint over there and jump on to the next special stage here. And yeah. Eventually it gets a bit harder though, but the only makes things a little bit difficult is just the whole memorization thing, which obviously you do need to remember what these ring placements are going to be at. So, but either way though, there's not much else to talk about. Although there's one key differences actually, compared to the forms of how it does it on normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2, is that I'm pretty darn sure that, although I may be wrong about this, but exponentially, is that the amount of rings you're going to be collecting from, like, between Sonic or Tails or Knuckles' playthrough of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that I'm guessing that, although I may be wrong still, but the amount of rings you're going to be collecting is actually, I don't know, different I suppose, although I may be wrong still. But either way though, I'm also able to actually find out for myself. So either way though, yeah, and of course, much like always, I'm gonna have to use the save states before I'm able to actually go ahead and just do like, you know, because I'm not very good at the forms of those half-pipe special stages as far as you guys should know. Yeah, I think the rings, collective objective is actually a lot different this time around, because normally in Sonic's playthrough, that, or the normal playthrough I should say, on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I believe you only get like, let's just say in the third portion of Special Stage 4, that you do need to collect about 150 rings from last time, but in here, all you have to do is just basically you need to collect about 140 rings, and that's all there is to it. So, but either way though, there's our fourth special stage, or the fourth Chaos Emerald I should say. It's kind of weird, they don't seem to able to change that particular pink color to a dark blue color emerald, which I just have no idea. And of course, much like always on certain emulation games, as far as capture cards decisions to make, usually sometimes it flickers or sometimes it just goes off like, you know, completely vanish all of a sudden. So again, it's most likely because of my capture card always attempt to always have that particular strange thing during the forms of trying to able to capture some capture footage or something. So, but I digress. So, not much else to talk about. Even though I was gonna able to mention about the forms of the game rewards discussion for the sake of this today. However, though, I might actually talk more about it and doing at some point until on Wednesday, because obviously this Let's Play wasn't going to be nearly as long, I don't think, because I'm presuming it's the exact same length as in the forms of normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 playthrough, although except the major difference is that it's pretty obvious that I think that the Chaos Emerald system is actually a lot faster in Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 compared to the normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2, even though you still got multiple chances until you're able to actually just guarantee to participate in the special stages to begin with. So yeah, that should be pretty surprising as far as I'm most likely concerned about this at this point. So, but there are some other things I would like to mention actually, and that was the fact that, well, I'm pretty sure ever since about 6 days ago, which is almost about a week ago, recently, finally, for those of you who ever want to able to play Doom Eternal from the Nintendo Switch that you can play it on the go, you notice about the fact that that game has been finally come out on the Nintendo Switch just recently. Ever since on, I would say the 8th of December, so yeah, I can't even believe it's about time to able to actually let someone finally manage to play Doom Eternal on the go. So even then, now that's pretty awesome, I have to say. Even though I wasn't really a Doom kind of guy, but what the heck? Okay, that's a bit odd. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, I'm not exactly a Doom kind of player, but at least what I've noticing for specific researchers, I found it's like pretty fascinating back then, whenever they did manage to make like some sort of like a 3D kind of perspective or something, which I was actually quite impressed about that. Especially, you know, with the Netflix series called High Score, which basically is like a documentary about the forms of video game stuff. So yeah, I found it really, really fascinating. So anyways, we only got 2 Chaos Emeralds left, and then hopefully we should be able to not worry about the special stages for the sake of the entire playthrough. So Yeah, anyway, and another thing I'd like to discuss upon is the fact that recently, although I'm pretty sure that the other toys has not even mentioned about this at all, mainly with the forms of, let's just say Sonic and Knuckles have not even mentioned about that in Super Smash Bros. Let's Play, and especially noticeable with the forms of Piglet, he also not mentioned about any of this at all ever since in his Sonic Advance 2 Let's Play recently. In fact, relatively speaking, is the fact that in this week in particular is the fact that we was able to actually do both Sonic Let's Plays, or Sonic related Let's Plays, like I'm doing Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and recently I think Piglet he's actually on to the halfway point in terms of Sonic Advance 2. Which, you'll talk more about that until whenever he managed to able to decide to finish that, son of a biscuit. When he finishes up Sonic Advance 2, and during at some point in this Thursday actually, because I'm pretty sure he might as well do the exact same length as far as, you know, Sonic Advance 2 Let's Play as far as I'm aware, just like in Sonic Advance 1. So, I'm guessing I'm also able to actually make that for the sake of that particular choice, so... But I digress. And of course you can't able to actually glide on those special stages because otherwise that'll be pretty cheating I have to say. It's kind of weird to see how Knuckles is actually running through the special stage, even though it almost kind of reminds me of that particular Sonic sprite from the special stage in normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 game. But either way though, it seems kind of weird at first, even whenever I first saw that it seems it's pretty strange at first, so... But anyway, let's just go ahead and keep on moving, and because I still managed to able to go myself over 100 or so rings, that way I can able to actually save it up for the final special stage in Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So, but either way though, things can get a little bit more relative at this point, so I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this before we move on, basically is the fact that, I believe recently that Nintendo has just managed to discontinue the actual the selling shipping for the likes of Nintendo Switch dock on its own. Like, not the console itself, but just the docked, which I'm not exactly sure why that's usually happens, but I just found this a little bit strange for that specific fact, but yeah, that's what I'm pointing out. So yeah, another thing I should probably point out right away as well is the fact that recently I managed to able to actually play Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix on the PlayStation 4 so far, and so far I'm actually on to the end game recently, even though I'm playing on standard mode, just because I'm not exactly ready for critical mode yet, even though the good thing about the PS4 version is that the loading times is a lot better than the forms of how it does it on the PlayStation 3 counterpart, which I'm sure most people seem to already know what I'm talking about whenever you're trying to deal with the secret bosses or something like that for that wager, but hey, they said something I'd like to point things out, so... Anyway, so let's move on to the final portion and well, Special Stage 7, and, well, looks like I actually got enough rings, so, yeah, because apparently it did tell me that I have to collect about 140 rings, which is a bit lesser compared to, well, let's say 190 in, Sonic's playthrough or something like that, or even more, if you manage to play as, Sonic and Tails together. But either way, though, because of that, though, I just feel like trying to able to noticing that for whatever random reason, so... But despite I did manage to get hit by one set of bombs already, but at least I still got enough as it is, so... Anyway... And here it is, folks, there's the 7th and the final Chaos Emerald in the game. And much like the forms of the normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 game, once you're able to actually get all 7 Chaos Emeralds at one hand, you will once again manage to able to get the ability to transform into its Super State. To be more specifically, Super Knuckles. And obviously Super Knuckles will able to play out exactly like how it forms of how it does it in... Well, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, like specifically Super Knuckles and Hyper Knuckles during the, well, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, so, although I'm probably not going to show this to you, right now, until if we get on to the next zone, and, because of that, though, we'll point things out whenever we get on to, well, Chemical Plant Zone, which appears to be the next zone in normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or something like that. So, that should be pretty swell. Obviously continues, obtaining continues is pretty much exactly the same. You still need to aim for about 10,000 points scored total once you finish the actual act. That way you can get yourselves the actual continue. Of course, getting continues in this Knuckles in Sonic 2 is actually a lot easier. Even specifically, if you manage to able to actually just well, just make the actual continues a bit easy to obtain in this Knuckles in Sonic 2 playthrough. Because obviously you're able to actually just keep a lot of rings to your disposal, and that way you can able to get the most insane amount of points as you could. And also, same applies to, well, what else? Just get some extra lives for that too. Like, you know what I mean, just trying to able to add up your score, and also same applies to grabbing some more extra lives here now too. So, yeah, there's not much to say on here. And for whatever reason, it's the fact that why does the Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection does not feature the actual the lock-on games between Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles lock-on games on their specific compilations, which I still have no idea why they refuse to do all that stuff though, but either way though, I just have no flipping idea of how come they just didn't do the actual lock-on technology stuff, you know? Anyway, so let's move on to Chemical Plant Zone Act 2, as you can see, even though we've already done Act 1, because Act 1 is like pretty short and easy and self-explanatory if you manage to know what this is all about. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and grab the shield, and, no, get off. I lost my shield. Oh well, whatever. At least I don't have to worry about the forms of trying to do the special stages again, because it seems it's pretty obvious that I've seemed to already accomplish them. So either way though, let's just go ahead and continue things on here. Of course, Knuckles can still able to do the spin dashes, just like the forms of how it does it on normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as well as, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, so even though despite the fact that usually Sonic the Hedgehog 2 did first came out in 1992, but it informs of Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that did manage to able to first came out, technically speaking, in 1994, because as you can tell from the actual sprite work of Knuckles, it borrows from the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, basically. So because of that though, all the similarities from Knuckles' sprites usually remains the same, although, well, usually it's pretty much the same, really. Although except the fact that the actual, I'm pretty sure the actual, the goal post or the goal sign post is actually relatively the same as the ones in normal Sonic the Hedgehog 3, if I recall correctly. But either way though, I seem to able to last commented on that, so... Oh yeah, remember that particular shifting blocks what you're trying to do with underwater in Chemical Plant Zone Act 2? Well, you can able to actually make Knuckles climb walls, so that way you can able to easily skip that particular part. Although here's the thing though, is the fact that since we are in Super Knuckles mode, you can able to actually just to glide a bit faster, and to top it off, you can able to climb walls faster, so... Yeah, you probably get the idea of how the actual Super Knuckles moveset works, so... But I digress. And obviously, that sense about the fact the matter is, though, is the fact that it's kind of hard for me to able to get used to with the Sega Ages version of Sonic 2, because I'm still into the forms of the original version of Sonic 2. Like, usually if I jump in midair, and then somehow the game automatically managed to make me transform into Super Sonic, during the course of that, well, for the sake of any other zones flow, really. Although, one thing I should probably forgot to mention is the fact that every time whenever you start the, any other level, as you can tell from the actual title card of the actual zone, rather than just having the actual blue background, in terms of likely the transition between the title card as well as the level itself, that normally in normal Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that basically it just gets like blue background along with, ziggy-zaggy red and yellow and stuff like that in of some parts of it though. But in here, for Knuckles in Sonic 2, the actual background is actually in green. I mean, what's this, like some sort of like a similar color palette as in New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Luigi U all in one? That could be a possibilities. Well, except the forms of, well, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for the Switch, even though for some areas, but usually for some menu systems, it just completely changes into like blue to red as opposed to like blue the whole time. I'm guessing because of how the fact that the Wii U does manage able to actually have a U word as in for that blue color letter, so although I may be wrong, but either way though, that's all I can honestly try to think about it. So, yeah, apart from those side of things, though, is the fact that, obviously, that Nintendo has recently just managed to discontinue the actual sales for, Nintendo Switch dock itself, which, comes with the charger and stuff like that, which I honestly have no idea why they just go for that specific stuff, mind you, but hey, at least it's something. And, also, recently, for the wonderful 101 remastered version on the Switch, and I'm pretty sure the PS4 version as well, and even a PC Steam version or something, although I may be wrong, but, apparently, they did manage to now finally added in some sort of like a small update, which I think, according to several servicers, they managed to able to include the actual code system, which if you manage to insert one of those codes in, it actually gives us some sort of like a cool costume of any sort, which appears to be inspired by Bayonetta, which it maybe seems pretty obvious because Platinum Games also did the Bayonetta series since the first game came out on the Xbox 360 back in like I would say in 2010 or something, although I haven't really looked upon that much of Bayonetta stuff for quite some time, but I definitely heard about it, but either way though, I haven't really get a chance to play them. Although what I've noticed is the fact that those games are now on the Nintendo Switch, specifically Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2, so at least you got that, so yeah, I think that's as far as I can say about it, and I still honestly, I'm not exactly 100% sure if I was gonna get the wonderful 101 just yet on remastered version on the Switch, even though I'm probably not gonna get on the PS4 for this point, because I'm probably not gonna spoil anything's territory when it comes to likely what the final PlayStation 4 game we might consider getting, even though sadly for Final Fantasy fans, for those of you who want to hear this, unfortunately I don't think I can probably gonna get Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which I definitely heard of it though, don't get me wrong, but it's just the fact that unfortunately I'm almost running out of storage in terms of my data storage. I think it usually gets like 100 gigabytes, which is actually quite a lot. Even if imagine if I managed to get the PlayStation 5 and managed to play Final Fantasy 7 Remake in that particular console, I can at least still manage to try to play that, despite it was actually 100 gigabytes storage use, so anyway, that's all I can honestly try to say about that for the most part, so and looks like we're now onto the 4th zone in one video, huzzah! But hey, at least it's quite fun to be able to do that. Anyway, speaking of the actual zones, I think I should probably do one more zone before we move on to the next video at some point on Wednesday, so why can't I just climb the wall from there? At least I did from there, but that seems kind of odd, to say the least. And obviously, there are some other changes in, specifically in normal Sonic 2, as opposed to Knuckles in Sonic 2, is that, as you can tell, one of those slot machines does manage to change Sonic to Knuckles, which, or to be more specifically, Sonic is being replaced by Knuckles, because obviously we played as Knuckles in the majority of Sonic 2, so but either way though, that's a very simple difference anyway, so anyway, I suppose the final thing I could possibly try to explain while we're able to actually just have a nice little trip out for, you know, Casino Night Zone, as you can see, recently during about, I would say 12 days ago actually, that I suppose that Sonic and Knuckles has not even mentioned about that at all in their Let's Play of Super Smash Bros. And also, definitely has not even mentioned about this either for the likes of Team Sonic Racing Let's Play, even though he did manage to finish that up recently. recently is the fact that we actually got something new for Sonic the Hedgehog ever since in December the 2nd. And I was like, cool, that's awesome, right? Well, not exactly. Because all they do is just the fact that they just mention about the 60th anniversary of Sega's anniversary, the 60th birthday of any sorts, but all they get for the Sonic category. At first I thought they might able to bring us new games, because obviously until 2021 it will be the the 30th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog will be on its way, until likely 6 months time now. And as a matter of fact, though, I was pretty hyped about it. But nope, all we get is just all kinds of merchandises, including reused artwork from the likes of the past, mainly with the forms of the actual wallpaper for Sonic's 30th anniversary, and it's just reused ever since when it first ever revealed the actual image itself, which I found was actually kind of lazy all of a sudden to me though. And also is the fact that they actually include 3 of those Sonic-themed Sega's 60th anniversary badges, or something like that, and they obviously include Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles based off from Sonic Mania. So, yeah, I can totally get the idea, but I've no idea why they just managed to reuse certain... What the heck? What's up with the actual getting stuck on certain ceilings? Now, well, because I just have no idea why they managed to come across into, like... They just like to, like, you know, kind of feels like a whole big... You know, search all Google images and just trying to slap it onto certain merchandises and all that stuff though, which I will say though, it feels incredibly lazy to me, but that's just me. Anyways, let's turn into Super Knuckles and kick Dr. Robotnik's butt. And yeah, that's all I'm honestly trying to go ahead and try to say for this point. Although, then again, I will mention about the forms of more details about the Game Awards 2020, but again, I'll mention more about it until on Wednesday. So, speaking of such, next time, for more of Let's Play of Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, is the fact that we're going to be hit on to Hilltop Zone, the most boring zone in the game to me. So, see you then.